Welcome to Seagull Maritime's module on mooring equipment inspection. In this video, you will learn more about the methods that can be used to inspect mooring equipment and what the inspection can find.
Well, I was new to the Janamarie, so I was just trying to see how they worked. Most crews do things their own way, but I remember thinking at the time that they were all very relaxed about the operation. While we waited to let go, I noticed that the roll on the pedestal was a bit loose. They told us in training that you should never use a pedestal roller or fair lead with a loose bearing. So I told the bosun about it, and he told me not to worry about it because it will be getting fixed at the next dry dock. It didn't seem right to me, but I was new on the ship, and you know, when you're new, you don't want to cause a fuss. And as I say, the bosun seemed okay about it.
Well, there was a lot to do that day after letting that container ship go. I was supposed to be working with Dave on the quayside checking the fenders, so we weren't paying much attention to the Janamarie as it was unmooring. We had our own job to do, and it was a busy port with ships coming and going all the time, so we just carried on working as normal. I still remember the sound of that bang. It's like it's printed on my mind. I don't think I'll ever be able to forget it either. So I was bent down at that moment. I was looking over the quayside at the fender, and I felt a breeze passing over the back of my neck. But it was very quick-like, less than a second. Then I looked to my right, and there was Dave about 10 metres away. I mean, one second he was stood next to me, and the next he was over there. There was blood everywhere. I tell you, I've seen some accidents in my time, but this was really horrible. Horrible.
I wish I would have been a bit stronger and made sure he would listen to me, but I didn't. I just let them carry on with the mooring operation, and now look what happened.
Poor maintenance occurs in two ways. Either the actions of the person completing the maintenance have not been thorough, or the maintenance has not been completed when it should have been. As with any machine, mooring equipment must be well maintained to ensure that all of its parts function as they should. If parts cannot do this, they become stressed and fail, often causing a knock-on effect with the failure of other parts. A recent Classification Society report showed that lost anchors and chains are commonly caused by the brake lining or brake band on the windlass being in a poor state and not adequately able to control the chain movement. Similarly, joining shackles and swivels being defective where the pin is not secure and the anchor becomes detached from the chain. There have been cases where vessels have grounded or collided with fixed objects because of mooring equipment failure. There have also been injuries to personnel caused by parts failing.
Mooring equipment in poor condition can cause serious accidents. It's our job to follow the inspection regime thoroughly to see if the equipment is fully maintained and ready for safe use. If not, we need to decide when and where any maintenance is required. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, let's go.
Let's go.
Deck equipment usually comes under the planned maintenance system, but it is possible that the required maintenance has not been done properly. Despite planned maintenance, there are circumstances where more regular maintenance is required. Mooring equipment is very commonly positioned on exposed decks and is open to the weather and heavy seas. Bearings and cogs should always be lubricated to enable efficient power transmission. but the spray and water breaking over the bow can wash grease out of bearings and off gear wheels and cogs, allowing corrosion to start. A poorly maintained windlass might not be able to haul the expected amount of deployed anchor chain, especially if anchored in deep water. In addition, mooring equipment that is used more regularly may require more maintenance. There are 4 methods we use to inspect all types of fixed mooring equipment. The first is a visual check of the mooring system management plan, if in place, or other maintenance records. The next is a systematic inspection of the equipment itself, following the steps outlined on a checklist. The third type is a performance check of mooring system components. This will include listening to the equipment, and, if possible, checking for bearing temperature difference, hydraulic pressure, and electrical power consumption. The final type of inspection involves an analysis of winch and windlass sump oil. If hydraulically powered machinery is used, analysis of hydraulic oil will be required as well. In most cases, samples will be taken on board and sent ashore for analysis.
Throughout the inspection, I want you to ask yourself, is the equipment fit for purpose? Is it okay to use? Is there anything that we can see that indicates the possibility of failure, or that it might operate outside normal operational limits?
What sort of things are we looking for?
Well, there are a few things that we can look for. Any sign of rust on gear wheels or the brake band is an indication of poor maintenance.
Okay.
Other signs might include dried up grease in nipples, insufficient grease around a bearing, and paint or heavy corrosion on warping drums. There may be leaks of hydraulic or sump oil, poor electrical connections or broken down insulation, or corroded or broken hydraulic oil pipe clamps.
We want to perform a full visual check of the area to look for any defects. With the rollers, we're looking for any paint or heavy corrosion on rollers attached to pedestals and fair leads. You may also see grooves cut into rollers or chocks. If there is a loose bearing causing a roller to wobble, or any seized rollers on pedestals and fair leads, then maintenance or isolation will be required before mooring operation can go ahead.
It is always important to check the winch and windlass deck foundation structures. Corrosion can degrade the thickness of a structure, but there can also be signs of physical damage, often caused by the equipment being overloaded. This will result in cracks or structural deformity. There are also a few checks you can make when the equipment is operational. Any unusual noises heard from equipment should be reported for investigation.
When equipment is being used, or immediately afterwards, it's a good idea to check the temperature of the bearing shells. If a bearing is dry or damaged, it will tend to heat up with use. And any of those dry or damaged bearings can easily be identified by putting your hand on the bearing keeps, when the winch is not turning, of course, and comparing with those of other bearings.
Okay.
The next thing to consider is performance checks of mooring equipment. When checking the hydraulic power pack of a mooring windlass or winch, check the oil level is adequate using a sight glass or dipstick. Next, check any cooling method employed for the hydraulic system, such as a fan unit or a cooling water system. Then start the power pack and check the pressure, ensuring it complies with the manufacturer's requirements for the equipment. When power is available, check that it is free from any covers and out of gear. Use the control system to turn the winch in both directions up to full speed, ensuring the device operates as expected, with no signs of hydraulic oil leakage.
If the device is running slow, it could be that the flow control valve in the hydraulic system needs to be adjusted. The automatic brakes should operate as expected with the device stopped or turning. Now, we have to check a few other things to ensure that the equipment is fit for purpose.
Check that the dog clutches slide in or out with ease. Check that the screwed shafts used to operate brakes or clutches operate with normal force, are greased and not bent. Check the setting for the brake on a windlass with a powered brake for wear compensation. Inspect emergency stop buttons, which should be free from signs of water ingress. Check their functionality by pressing the buttons and seeing whether the device stops.
We need to check that the rollers are fully operational and turn using reasonable manual force.
Is that just the rollers used for the operation?
No, we want to check them all, including those not normally used for mooring. Throughout the inspection, we're looking for any defects that may affect the safety of mooring operations. Now, there are a number of common defects found during inspections which may require extra maintenance.
One thing to look for is a build-up of scale on the steelwork that causes wasting. This can occur on brake bands, covers, gratings, and foundation structures. Exposed parts of gear wheels and screwed shafts can start to rust or seize up if protective grease has been removed whilst operating equipment. Brake bands can have a corroded, pitted, or rusty surface and may not release. Warping drums may not be smooth or could be covered with paint. Hydraulic pipe joints can be subject to vibration, causing leaks, and the pipes themselves can be corroded to the point where they become porous and leak oil. Shafts can be bent or have securing pins missing. Clutches can be difficult to slide in or out. Brakes can be hard to put on or off with corrosion on the thread, or there could be a bent brake shaft. The device may also cut out due to power overload or high temperature. With other equipment, rollers and leads can be grooved or seized up. A groove is often a sign of a seized roller, and that the equipment has been under excessive tension. There may be corroded steel supports on pedestals, roller fairleads and chocks, badly corroded or bent foundations. Or the link pin's circlip may be missing or broken on brake drums. There may be worn dog clutches or noisy bearings. And pins for locking handles may be missing or not attached to the device by a chain.
It's essential that you also inspect the nuts and bolts, as vibrations can cause nuts and bolts to loosen. Now, the bolt could be large, such as when part of the anchor D shackle pin attaches the anchor to the chain, or it could be much smaller, such as the bolt that holds a pipe or cable clamp. Whatever type they are, they should not be loose.
Okay.
With anchor chains, common defects include loose or missing studs from links. A twisted anchor chain. When it has rotated axially 90 degrees, due to jumping when anchor dropped, and either the guillotine bar not locking into place or a bent bow stopper.
The last thing to check is the brake drum. The drum should be free from heavy corrosion and scale, and you'll need to visually inspect the whole brake drum by turning the windlass or winch. Though enclosed braking surfaces and brakes can only be thoroughly inspected once the device is taken apart at dry dock. Once you've finished your inspection, it's important to make a plan to resolve any defects found. We may also need to raise an unscheduled maintenance report in the planned maintenance system. We may also need to make a work list for any work required to resolve any deficiencies found.
The work identified during an inspection will not necessarily be done by the vessel crew. Steelwork repairs and brake band repair or replacement may be carried out by shore personnel, possibly at the next dry dock. More minor work will be added to the job list for the crew to undertake. This may include applying grease or flushing bearings, retightening pins and shackles that are found to be slack, and replacing any missing seizing. Any equipment needing a major repair should be isolated so that it won't be used. All vessels are recommended to have a mooring system management plan that itemizes equipment and records inspections and maintenance carried out, including brake setting and strength tests on a winch or windlass. This plan can form part of the vessel's safety management system.
Ultimately, it's our responsibility to make sure that we rectify all major defects as soon as possible. We need to identify all defects, then put plans in place to fix them and make sure that repairs are made.
Okay, cheers.
Mooring operations involve very high forces that must be controlled to ensure the safety of those involved. Let's take a look back at some of the key points to remember when inspecting mooring equipment. Poor maintenance occurs when the person completing the maintenance has not been thorough, or the maintenance has not been completed when it should have been. The maintenance of mooring equipment is typically covered by the planned maintenance system, but this may not allow for circumstances on board that hasten the need for maintenance, such as equipment exposed to heavy seas. There are 4 methods used to inspect fixed mooring equipment. This could be a visual check of the maintenance records, a systematic inspection of the equipment itself, performance checks of all devices, or an onshore analysis of hydraulic and sump oil. The aim of the inspection is to identify any defects. there are a number of common defects that would indicate the need for further maintenance or work to rectify the issues. Once the defects have been identified, a plan must be put in place to rectify them. This work may be done by shore personnel or the crew on board. Any equipment requiring major repair should be isolated. After completing an inspection, it is your responsibility to make sure a plan is in place to fix all defects. It is essential that all major defects are rectified as soon as possible.
Okay, Chief.